Today I'm going to show you how to configure the Laserfiche API for Laserfiche Cloud. I've been working in Laserfiche Cloud a lot lately, and there are some key differences between cloud and self-hosted. You do have some limitations in workflows and business processes, but the API can help you work around some of those issues. And you may even choose to use the API over some workflows and other business processes because it's going to give you a little more power over what you need. My name is Anthony, my company is ABEV Integrations, and I'm a Laserfiche solution provider. Let's get started. What we create today is a baseline for all Laserfiche to Laserfiche API calls. So you can actually call a Laserfiche API from your own Laserfiche repository to your own Laserfiche repository. It was a different concept to me, but I think it created a circular reference in my brain, but it works. And it's a really good way to work around some of the limitations. And it's a good way to do some other things that you can't do normally in Laserfiche. And as I was saying, you're going to be able to perform some things that you cannot do with workflow or business processes. For this video, you need Laserfiche Cloud. You need your repository ID, which I'll show you how to get. You need an entry ID, just a document in your Laserfiche repository, and you need proper permissions to create service principals. Steps today, we're going to get the prerequisites. Step 1 is create the service principal. Step 2 is create an app, a Laserfiche app. Step 3 is create an authorization key. Step 4 is create a web request. Step 5 will be testing. If all goes well, this will take us about 15 or 20 minutes, a little faster if you speed up the video. But I think we're pushing 15 to 20 minutes on this. Helpful links. Developer.laserfiche.com has been completely redone. It's much cleaner. It's much easier to access. It's much easier to understand. These other links here I'll throw all in the description. There's the API playground links, and then there's the Swagger links that you'll find very valuable. And let me just flip over to those real quick. And that's these Swagger playgrounds. You'll find these very valuable. There's basically 3 you're going to work off of, and it depends on which data center you're in. Also, pay attention to that because you can't, if you're in one data center, you can't use the API in another. But anyway, there's 3 APIs. There's the OAuth API, which you have to authenticate to first. And then there's the repository API, which will actually allow you to make calls against your repository and make queries and updates. And then there's also the table API. So a little bit different in cloud is that you don't have access to your own SQL Server, but you do have access to your own tables within the cloud itself, and you can create those tables through CSVs, and you can then use this table API to query against that, update it, make changes. So without going on any further, let's get started here. Into your Laserfiche repository, starting off here in the home section. Let me clear out these. Had a few test runs so far, but starting at our home page, first thing we want to do is create a service principal. So this is the app picker, the little 9 box icon up here. I say it fast sometimes and it doesn't sound like app picker, but it is an app picker. So we're going to go app picker and we're going to account. Before we do service principals, let's just get our repository ID. I just want to be sure about that. Let's do app picker repository administration. And this is your repository ID. I'll probably blur this for my own safety, but it's not this number. I tried when I was first testing out the API, I would try this number. It's not this number. It's this. It's the R number. I think it's R number. Maybe R number for everybody. It's the repository ID is what you want. So the other thing that you may want to grab right now is just make sure, I'm sure you have documents in your repository, but you may not. If not, just find any document in your repository, go to the details tab and show advanced and your entry ID. It's just a simple number based on a folder or a document in the order that you imported it or created it in your repository. It's just a nice simple number. So now let's create the API. Let's go to app picker. Let's go to account. Let's go to service principals and let's add a service principal. We're going to call this Anthony API. We don't need a display name. We don't need a group. The only thing we need to do for the purposes of this exercise is give it full rights. So Simple, not much there. So now we have Anthony API, which I spelled wrong, but we'll keep it that way. Our next step is to just go back into that service principal we created. Let's create some service principal keys. Pay attention to these warnings. They're the same in Azure. They're the same in AWS. They're the same in just about everything you use when there's keys. They're going to give you one chance to save them, and you should save them because you won't be able to get to it again. You could certainly create new ones, but in the beginning of these processes, there'd be so much trickle down, you'd find yourself kind of fighting against the tide a little bit on that. So whenever that's warning you to save those, please do so. I'm going to copy them to my text file and save those. And it's these right here. It's just these. So let's do that. So we have the service principals, nothing else to configure here. These are ready to go. Our next step is to go to App Picker, and I'm just going to create another tab. Right click on Developer Console, open in a new tab, get out of the way of my camera. We need to create a new application, and this is create a new app. And this will be a service app. And this is going to be spelled correctly this time, Anthony API, and we're going to create this application. A couple of things here. Make sure you assign this to the service account we just created in this dropdown, and also copy your client ID and save that to your text file. I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning, but have a text file ready when you're doing these, when you're configuring these, because you're going to need to copy a few different pieces of information. So just have something ready. It'll make it a lot easier to move along. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself moving back and forth a lot. Save changes on that. We have a friendly message here that says they require valid service principals. So let's do that. We have the valid service principals, which we already created, but we need at least one access key. We're going to create an access key, and we're going to use the second option here. I don't typically go into what these options are. I just call this one the second one. This is an authorization key used to obtain a token. So second option there, I don't think they're going to change, but if they do, that's the one that we want. Let's go next here. Now we need a service principal key. This was from step one. You got two service principal keys from that. You can enter either or. I'm going to do one of them and paste it right in there and create a key. All right, again, got an opportunity to save this. These are long strings, and they're very different from all the others, so you'll know specifically that that's the one that you'll need for this. It's much different than all the others. So copy that or download it. Make sure you have that, and this is your authorization key. Click OK on that. Just some information briefly on this. Our expiration limit is how long, not the key that we just made lasts, but how long the authorization token lasts once we make the initial request. Now, the way we're doing it, we're making requests each time, so we don't really care that the expiration limit is that long. This is 12 hours. I don't need it that long, but I'm going to keep it there because it's the default. I also want to make sure that I set these authorization scopes, these OAuth 2.0 scopes. These are critical. It won't work if these aren't set. Typically, for this exercise, we can just do read and write. I may only want it to read, or I may only want it to write, and that's for the repository. And these ones here for the table are separate for table read and table write. We're not going to do the table API today, but make sure we update the scopes there and make sure, do we have any other saves? No, we're good there, because this could be a trip up. This is always the first place to look if something's not working, is make sure those scopes are there. I just want to double check them because I got stuck on this before. I just went back out to my applications and going back into my services. Yep. And I just wanted to make sure that they're there because that's critical. So now let's create the integration. Right click, so App Picker, right click Process Automation, open a new tab. I want integrations. And I am creating a web service connection for this one. Let's create a new, let's call it Anthony API, again spelled correctly. We are going to send requests directly. We don't want to send through remote agent on this one. We're using OAuth 2.0. The grant type is client credentials. The token URL is, I will paste this in the, I'll paste this in the description just in case you guys can't see it well here. And I don't want to say it out loud, but it's just, it's signin.laserfiche.com/OAuth/token. There, I did it. For the request header, we do need one. It's authorization. And then here, the value is going to be bearer the word bearer, and that long authorization key that we just got in the last step. Let me just grab that and paste that in. I believe they all start with EY. I've never seen them start with something besides that. So that's bearer. Let's back that up. Yep, so it's bearer and then space and then the key. That's good there. The grant type is always client credentials, good for Laserfiche. They hardwired that in there. Don't know why they did this, though. I don't know why we have client ID here on client secret, because we don't need it. The scope we do need, and the scope, and this is where I got tripped up on earlier today. I swear this was changed and no one told me. I had it as read write and it was failing, but I had always known this to be two separate keys separated by a space, repository.read, repository.write. So that was a mistake. That something happened earlier. I don't know if there was a change or if I just had some type of moment, but we're going to keep that as repository read, repository.write for now, and I'm pretty certain that's going to work for us. Because we're going to do some testing off of the repository, let's use this as the base URL. I'll throw this in the description as well. And then we don't need anything else on this page. We don't need any headers. We're not sending anything. And then our test is going to be, this is where you're going to need your repository ID and an entry ID. So this is going to be /repository ID /entries with a capital E /entry ID. I happen to have one that's number 67, so I'm putting 67 in. Yours obviously will be different. And let's just test this. And great, we get a 200 OK. If you get anything else, you need to check either your scopes or way back in the service principal if you didn't give it full access. Let's save this. So that's cool. So we got that. Cool. Now we're going to create a web request because we're going to test it, and then I'll show you one trick with it. So we're going to go @picker. We're doing really good on time. I hope you guys are picking this up. @picker, process automation. Right click because I like to open up new tabs. Rules, and this is going to be a web request, and this is going to be new, and this is going to be Anthony API. And we don't need, yes we do, we need Anthony API here from our web service connection. And then let's create. Cool. So again, we have our base URL that we configured earlier. Let's just drop in that same, the rest of that call. So it's /repository ID /entries with a capital E. I believe case matters, and then / the number of the entry. And this is a get. So we're going to send a live web request. It's a warning. We know we want to do this. This is fine. And that's great. We got a success. We got a 200, and we have the data returned here. This is perfect. It's exactly what we wanted. So now, a couple other tricks with this. Let's just change the parse type to JSON. So now this is formatted much better. I can read this so much nicer. Now let's just add one other tweak to this. First of all, let me save this just so I don't get further along. And let's do this. Let's do in our response body, because we want to pull some data out. Let's say we just want to pull the folder path out. Just do this one last thing with you guys. Let's add the output token. Let's just keep it folder path, and just hit this little arrow. So this actually pulled this piece out, this data in between, in the quotes, which is just what we want. Because ultimately what we want to do is we want to run a web request from a workflow. We're going to run a rule with a web request, and we want to return some value because we want to send it out there, ask it a question, and then get some data back. And this is the data that we needed for this instance. Let's just say we wanted folder path. So we have that back. The only reason why I have this little warning is it's a preview. They just want me to run it again just to make sure it comes out. And if we run it again, yep, it's successful, and it gave it without that warning. So that's good. You're all done. Publish that. That is ready to go. You can now reference that in a workflow. This is pretty straightforward. The documentation from Laserfiche is good, but there are still some things that you're going to run into that you just didn't you weren't sure, there may be some little tweaks here and there, but this will get you started. This is reusable now. You can use this in any way to get any number of calls. I encourage you to test this out, and then also encourage you to look at the Swagger links that I have in the description, and you can make different calls against your repository. That's all for me now. My name's Anthony. My company's ABEV Integrations. I'm a Laserfiche solution provider. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel, as I'll have some more videos coming up.